You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah!
All right, good morning, everybody. This is James Morris. We're our second half of Ask the Master Auto Technician. I have my wife answering the phone calls at 763-0555, area code 850 if you're from out of town. I've got Brian Armstead speaking about being from out of town. He's calling all the way. Are you in Maryland today, or are you in Maine? I was trying to remember.
I got back last evening, Maine, Maryland. Hey, what a connection. The two M's striking hard this morning.
And it is it still cold up in Maine? I know that last time I talked to you, it was a little chilly up there in Maryland.
Yeah, well, no, Maine was beautiful. The weather broke just as we arrived on Monday, and it was fabulous weather the whole time. It's a beautiful state. Had a chance to drive through New Hampshire. Hats off to the people of New England. They showed us a lot of hospitality as we drove the beautiful 2017 Mercedes-Benz C300 Coupe throughout New Hampshire and Maine. What a car, James! What a car! If you recall, back in the day, all Mercedes-Benzes were like big affairs. You know, you had the S-Class, you had the E-Class. These were big cars, substantial automobiles. In 1982, Mercedes decided, hey, we need to chip away at some of the lower end of the market. And born was the Mercedes 190, the so-called baby Benz. Everybody wanted one because they were nice little sedans. They were safe. They had decent power, not necessarily with the 2-liter 4-cylinder or the 2.5-liter diesel, but they had a 3.2 or 3-liter or 3.2-liter 6 option. I think it was 3-liter. So that 190 with the 2.6 or 3-liter, I can't remember the number, but it was a powerful little automobile.
Yeah, it ran a lot better than it ran a lot better, a lot faster than the 4-cylinder. A lot of people like the V6 model over the 4-cylinder on the 190 series.
Well, actually, it was an I6.
Okay.
Yeah. And over the years, the C-Class has become a very important automobile for Mercedes-Benz. Now, they have a couple of cars slotted below the C-Class now, including the CLA, which is, the first Benz to come in, well, not the first Benz to come in, but the first modern Benz to come in at below $30,000, which was quite a significant achievement.
Yes.
But the C-Class, hey, it's an important part of their sales strategy, and they have the new C Coupe, which is just downright gorgeous. If you know about the high end of the scale, think about the AMG GT. It's the same body style, that swept coupe styling, with a whole lot of horsepower under the hood. This car looks just like the AMG GT from the distance, and it performs somewhat like the AMG GT in the sense of the handling. Expect an AMG model of the car at some point in the future, probably by fall. I'm just gushing. I mean, really, I've always been a fan. I've always been a fan of the products. I own several. The pluses for Mercedes-Benz ownership are exceptional safety, exceptional reliability if you get them right. You got to do the service on them, folks.
Absolutely.
The service is quite expensive,
right?
But you got to do the service on them. It's just you can't take a high-end automobile that's been precision engineered and run the oil for 15,000 miles and expect it to work like you want it to work.
No.
Now, with this car,
it's true.
The base engine is a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, 241 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque.
Whoa.
It gets up pretty nicely. I wouldn't call it blazing acceleration by any stretch of the imagination, but it certainly gets up with some oomph. I mean, these new 4-cylinder turbos that they're coming out with. We talked in the past about Ford's EcoBoost products.
Right.
These are cars that get the job done. My base price on the car was $42,650. Comes with a lot of options, James, including a panorama sunroof, which you rarely see as a standard bit of kit on any type of automobile. 7-speed G-tronic transmission, which shifts very precisely. It's got the paddle shifters behind the wheel, and it's got a couple of range modes that you can select from. You can go into a dynamic range mode and select comfort, economy, sport, or sport plus. Now, the roads that they laid out for us to drive required us to kind of, really appreciate the automobile. So I found myself in sport and Sport Plus. What this means is that the suspension tightens up, the shift parameters are different, so you get quicker acceleration. I mean, the shifts really fire off in Sport and Sport Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go with the Airmatic optional suspension, the car lowers a little bit and it firms up, even more. Airmatic is an option on the car. It comes with a multi-link front and multi-link rear suspension as base with, struts up front and shocks in the rear.
Mm-hmm.
Handling is just superb. 18-inch wheels standard, 19-inch wheels optional on Pirelli P0 tires. Very supple ride, yet when you want to get down on it, James, very commanding driving performance. A nice fat leather steering wheel for you to grab hold of. And I'm 6'9". I fit very well. My right leg had a little bit of trouble. Left leg was in there all the way, good to go. A very comfortable car for people, I would say up to maybe 6'4", 6'5".
Mm-hmm. Now,
bolstered seats, so even my wide body at 300 pounds, I had no trouble with the comfort of the seats. We drove the car, the first day we drove the car almost 8 hours.
right.
The second day we drove the car for almost 3 hours. So that's 11 hours behind the wheel in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really get some impressions of an automobile, either favorable or unfavorable, over that amount of distance. Very terrain.
What was your most favorable way of handling? What stood out of the one things in the 11 hours that you were driving? What one thing handled, or handling, or acceleration, or style? What stood out in your mind most of this year vehicle, of this Mercedes? Is just one particular thing?
I wasn't tired.
Okay, yeah.
I split the driving with a good friend Paul Eisenstein of the DetroitBureau.com.
Mm-hmm.
We had a great conversation. We were able to converse at normal levels, which means the car is quiet.
Yes.
And you want a car to be quiet. It's a GT. It's a performance-oriented automobile, but it's not a raucous automobile. The 4 is refined. It doesn't scream when you get down on it. It doesn't make those typical 4-cylinder noises, which can be very disconcerting at times. The Mercedes-Benz engineers have just really done their part with the NVH, the noise, vibration, and handling characteristics of the car. So after 11 hours, we were just like, hey, we can go another 11 and still be good to go.
And it's a diesel. And it's a diesel engine. You're telling me, is that correct?
No.
Okay,
not a diesel.
Okay, I was making sure. I thought I heard that earlier. It's saying 4-cylinder turbo diesel with 240 horsepower. I said that's awesome, but this is a gasoline direct injection. It's built like a diesel engine, direct injection. It has a lot of horsepower, turbocharged, and will get and go, I bet.
And a lot of torque to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
my car was pretty heavily optioned. It came with a rear view camera, which is pretty slick because the star on the trunk lid pops open so the camera can do its work. It had a memory passenger seat, a head-up display, which I found very effective. That was a $990 option.
Right.
The 19-inch wheels we talked about adds another $500. You've got several packages, a premium package at $1,800, which includes keyless go, some other safety variables like Parktronic. And, you have the Airmatic package at $1,190, the Sport package at $1,675, and the Night package, which includes high-gloss black elements on the front wing and labellas and a rear diffuser. That's another $300, all in with delivery and destination, $56,840. So between the base price of $42,650 and $56,840, you've got some wiggle room to do some a la carte. You can really build your own C300 coupe. You don't want to spend that much money? Don't worry about it. The base Mercedes is extremely safe. Yes, the optional packages that they have for safety are phenomenal. They'll give you some things that will really kind of set the standard for this class. But it's just a really, really nice car.
Well, I got to go to Germany a few years ago, right before, back in the early 90s. I went to Munich, Germany, and went to the Mercedes plant and watched them how they were assembled and put together. And people came there to pick up their cars. They ordered their cars. They went to a dealership, wherever it might have been, and said, this is the color car I want. These are the option packages I want. And then they ended up arriving in Munich and to drive their vehicle back to their home, whatever country they lived in Europe. And I was just amazed that that's how they put their sales program together. How is it in America with Mercedes? Do they already have the cars put together and you just pick out what's on the lot, or do you go in there and do the same thing, custom order your car?
Well, you can custom order your car if you're happy with what's on the lot. It has the options and features that you want.
Right.
And strike a deal and drive it off.
Okay.
You can do European delivery with the Mercedes-Benz. More details at www.mbusa.com. You look for the European delivery program. Yes, you can go to Stuttgart and pick up your Mercedes-Benz there, and you can drive it around Europe, and then they'll put it on a boat and ship it back to you to the United States. The Mercedes dealer network here in the U.S. is very sophisticated. They tend to follow trends. If they pre-order a car, they tend to order them with the options that customers would typically buy. Mm-hmm. Like if you're a Mercedes buyer, you want all the safety goodies. You want pre-safe. You want pre-safe plus. Mm-hmm. You want Distronic. You want all these safety features that will help you to keep safe on the road. Like Distronic Plus, it's an adaptive cruise control system that adjusts the speed between you and the person in front of you, and can even brake if you run into any kind of situation.
It's
The C300 is a semi-autonomous car. It won't drive itself, but it will certainly do a lot of things to keep you from having any kind of incidents on the road.
Now, let me ask you a question. Now, we know that a lot of companies out there are working with Google and all this to put autonomous cars. I know Volvo was working with them. Is Mercedes actually doing the same thing on their trucks? I know they're talking about doing long-distance truck driving autonomously. I didn't know if you'd heard anything about that because we only got a couple minutes left. I just want to kind of touch on that. If you'd heard.
Well, the C300 is semi-autonomous.
Semi-autonomous. Okay.
So it's got it will brake autonomously at speeds up to 124 miles an hour. Let's say you're lunching behind the wheel, you're not paying attention, and it senses that you're about to have a collision. It will brake that car fully at speeds up to 124 miles an hour. Now you can't go 124 miles an hour legally,
yeah.
But that's one hell of a threshold.
Yes.
So between 4 miles an hour and 124 miles an hour, you're good to go. Right. Now, at speeds up to 31 miles an hour, the system also brakes in response to stationary vehicles, and it helps to prevent rear-end collisions.
It sounds like they've come a long way in the last few years as far as autonomous driving and safety and laser cruise control. I remember when laser cruise control came out, I was sitting there going, man, how are we ever going to work on that? But once you start looking at it, it's really not that complicated. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It uses reflection.
Well, see, what you get with the German brands, the European brands, Volvo, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, mm-hmm. These guys are serious about safety. The Japanese brands have started to catch up. The American brands have started to catch up. Mm-hmm. But when you look at all the safety innovations over the years, they typically have either Volvo or Mercedes as the innovators for these safety innovations.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Electronic stability control, if I've got my facts correct, that was a Mercedes-Benz innovation, and now it's required by law on all vehicles.
Well, I know anti-lock brakes. That was something that came out through Mercedes-Benz German engineering during World War II. The Germans came up with it. They've been ahead of the curve on safety. Well, since before I even came in this industry, you or I both came into it. Just everything is just amazing what they come up with. I think they over-engineer a lot, but the engineering they mainly make is for safety and keeping the customer on the road, because in Germany, well, you got the Autobahns, you can travel as fast as you want to drive, 200 miles an hour if you can go that fast. Not here, but over in Germany you can, so they really work on safety. They really do.
Well, let me I know I'm running out of time here, but let me just bring up a point for those who are listening who may not be familiar with the brand. I know that Mercedes are probably not very common in your area, but if you go to a major city like D.C. or Los Angeles and look on the Craigslist under used cars, mm-hmm. look under BMW, look under Mercedes, look under Audi, and see what you find. And you'll find out when you look under Mercedes-Benz, you'll see cars all the way back to the early 1960s, maybe even the late 1950s,
right,
for sale. And they'll have 300,000 or 400,000, and diesels may have 600,000 or 700,000 miles on them. You won't find that with Audi, or you won't find that with BMW.
No.
You won't find that with Volvo.
No.
So these cars, people drive these cars They drive them, and they never drop. I mean, you'll see a car for sale with 300,000 miles on it, and the guy's like, factory maintained, and the price is like, okay, he really wants that much money for a car with 300,000 miles? And then you go look at the car, and it looks brand new inside, as if nobody had ever been behind the wheel at all.
That's why they want that money for it. Hey, Brian.
Hats off to Mercedes for the 2017 C300 Coupe. It's a buy.
All right, sounds great. We got to go. Thank you so much. Look forward to hearing next week. Next week, let's do one that's not so expensive. Let's do something that's...
Well, we're going to do the Ford Escape Titanium next week.
That's perfect, because that's more right up the price range of most of my listeners. not these Mercedes. Sounds good, Brian. We'll talk to you next week. Same time, same station. Bye-bye. Talk to y'all later now, everybody.
James Auto Center, we fix it right.